Welcome to Henrietta and her hormones. The poor thing is always picked on because she represents the multitude of problems that women have. We find that hormones don't always comply with what they're supposed to do at a certain age and time in their lives. And I want to just reflect back for a minute to Mother's Day. And for some, it's a great celebration. For others, it's sad for many different reasons. And my friend came over and she gave me a pendant, and on it, it said, "Expect miracles." And she expressed what she was feeling and the reason behind those words. And I was really touched. You know how women share so much together. So I was like, oh, that was just wonderful, because we're very endearing people. I think it's a lot to do with our oxytocin, which is a hormone that gives us a lot of tenderness, a lot of joy, a lot of good feeling, a lot of endorphins. And so we're kind of always in that arena where we're looking to do something for someone just to make that feeling come across. And, some people call it friendship, some people call it love. So when she left, I looked at the necklace because she gave me a chain with it, and I put it on and I was holding it and I was thinking, what do I think expect miracles mean? And I got thinking about what I do for a living. Which is take care of people, is to help them be well, is to help them find answers, it's help them to help themselves. And I kind of think this podcast is more about them helping themselves than me pulling people in and not feeling the dependence that they can necessarily have through just some interventions that they can do. So I got thinking about the generation of women who are in their 20s. And generally, that's a time where the reproductive years are at their peak. They're the strongest. That's when, women are feeling like they're healthy and they relate to someone and they have a significant other and they want to have a child. And that's very important to them. And so I got thinking about this, and I know and I've talked to a lot of women who have expected miracles month after month while they are trying to get pregnant. And they get frustrated, their partner gets frustrated, there's a lot of anxiety behind it. They look into in vitro fertilization, which they use the acronym IVF. And IVF just means that the egg and the sperm gets united outside of the womb. And for many, that's been successful. And for those that can afford it, it can be a really good thing. But how I look at it is I want to be able to tell the women some of the reasons behind the infertility. I want to tell them why they don't ovulate, why their period is off or lasts too long or is heavy or is just not following the app that they've got. Nearly everyone has an app that helps them with their cycles. And as I reflected into this, I remember when I was in my 20s and I first started having children, I was more than ready, and I also developed insulin resistance. And that means that your hormone isn't working to the extent that it should to help your food turn into lean muscle mass and energy. And that affects the ability to be nourished, affects the ability for the leading, I would say, pituitary hormone that tells your FSH and LH, which are the two hormones that allow you to ovulate. FSH is a follicle stimulating hormone, and that pops the eggs. And then the LH is the hormone that allows you to bleed. And so when that 6 hormone binding globulin is off, that means the actual signals to your cycle hormones are off. And so our goal is to get that sex hormone binding globulin, which kind of comes from your drone or your pituitary that sits back here and is kind of like the watchdog over all of your activities in your body, not just your endocrine system, which, your ovaries are part of your endocrine system, your thyroid's part of your endocrine system, and your adrenals are part of your endocrine system. And they all have a connection, and they all have to do with helping you to stay stable, to stay well, to have cycles that are regular and fertile. I was 3 years in America. I noticed that my periods were irregular, and they used to be right on the dot. It was like I was on the birth control. Like I could just plan it out. It was like I had my own internal app. And when I came to America, it took about 3 years before it started becoming irregular. And there was something kind of different that I did not experience at home. And by the way, I think most of you know, if you're following me, that Scotland is my home. But I also did my training in London, England, and I also lived in Paris. And the reason why I'm pointing out those 3 places is they have healthy food. They don't have the same genetically modified foods as they do in America. And I can understand why these foods are here, because we're a huge country. We've got a lot of mouths to feed. And, it is kind of obvious why these kind of foods are entertained. Also, in France and England and Scotland, there isn't the same herbicides that you see in the fields here. And also, there isn't the same fast turnover of the fields. And so a lot of minerals are drained from foods. And so my very first year here, when I went out to eat, my body went into this dumping syndrome. And it was only when I went out to eat, and whatever restaurant it was, it didn't matter what I ordered or what I took into my body, within 15 minutes, I was at the bathroom. And when I was with other people, that was very embarrassing and also very painful. So I got where I didn't really like to go out to eat too much. And then, like I said, 3 years later, living in America, my periods started being irregular. They started to not be there when they should be. And then at other times they were super heavy and very painful. And I was in school at the time, and I went to the University of Utah, and one of the most fabulous teachers and scientists, I called them scientists because of the research they did, and they actually wrote a book. It was called MUCUTH Enhance, and it was Advanced Pathophysiology. And that was my first introduction to how periods become irregular, how things can get off balance. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's what I've got. And I thought right away, I have this. And then I looked into, of course, they just did the pathophysiology. So I had to look at other books to see what was happening. And then I discovered that this insulin resistance, that they call it, where you're not using your insulin to the full because it goes too high when you eat, turns things into polycystic ovarian disease, where you get these cysts on your ovaries and the eggs get trapped in the cysts. So here I am wanting to get pregnant and finding out there is a risk and a reason why it's like this. So I began to follow some of the instructions out there. And of course, it was not near the hype or the focus at that time when I was in my 20s. And so I kind of figured things out just by reading for what was out there on PCOS. A lot of times there was very little focus on it. And PCOS is a very, very painful problem because these cysts get so large, and then they can fill up with blood, they can burst, and very painful. And part of it is there's really no room down there for big cysts, you know. It's a very tight area. It's a very reduced area, and so it doesn't want all the swelling that comes with it. And what I did was I got on a supplement called berberine. And berberine is a natural form of the prescription like metformin. It has a close physiological stamp to it. And what it does, it helps this insulin resistance piece. But it needs encouragement. And the way it needs encouragement, you can't just go on this supplement and just expect it to do all the work, because it will not happen. So I have a couple of helpmeets that I didn't have when I was having my babies. So this is by actually a person who was born in Scotland as well. The reason why I picked the book is because it's one of the best books out there. And not only that, she quotes a lot of the research that helps people see this is truly scientific. And I've got a few followers that I love, and a lot of them do these pictures. They're different women, but they have them kind of changing their body structure. And this is what happens when you start to control the insulin resistant piece, or the PCOS. It's kind of interchangeable. And the one thing about this picture is they get their waist back, their hips slim down, they're a lot more energetic, their moods change, and things are generally overall better. I want to show you the picture. It's her 8 steps. And the reason why I like the 8 steps is because I have very similar, from all my research, all my conferences, I have very, very similar steps, because that's what controls it. That's what fixes it. That's what helps the PCOS to stop happening. Now, it's hard work. The first chapter of this, she actually has you identify. Are you a mild form? Are you moderate? Are you severe? And Fiona McCulloch does an amazing job. I highly recommend it. I don't know her personally. I'm sure she has a Scottish accent like me. I don't know if it's the same twang as me, but it doesn't matter. What she's written is magic. What she's written has helped many, many women. But let me tell you, there's 10 times more the research since this book came out, by the way. And I'd like to think it's being more embraced than it's ever been, because, you know, they don't want to hear, which they've heard. You just have to go on a diet. You just have to eat right. You just have to get on the pill. You just have to exercise. Now, if that worked, none of them would come and see us, because they're already doing all that. They're already doing that, and they're killing themselves, and they're picking on themselves because they're wondering, what are they doing wrong? Nothing's changing, and they're so frustrated. And so we're here to help, because it's not just them. It is a true endocrine problem. We have to get the insulin set to be sensitive to them when they eat. We have to get the inflammation out of their body. We have to see if the other hormones are involved, like the cortisol from the adrenals. Without cortisol, we wouldn't have a blood pressure. Without it, we would have no get up and go. Without it, we couldn't deal with stress. So cortisol is essential, not only in our everyday living, but also in getting our hormones balanced. And then the elements of inflammation that these women make is huge. But it all has to be done together. So you can't do one without the other, so to speak. Really can't, because there's so much involved. And the thyroid also can be involved, especially if the cortisol's off. And thyroid is so connected to infertility. Anyone that's having trouble and they have a history of thyroid in their family should ask their doctors, please check my thyroid. And the other thing that I would also ask them is, please check my prolactin level. Prolactin comes out when you're breastfeeding to help the milk production. It is a hormone. And some DNA folks just make high prolactin. And then, of course, you have to make sure there's no tumor involved, but usually you know that because headaches will be involved. You just look at the prolactin, and if it is high, you have to get it down so they'll ovulate. So you're complicated. Now, is that a bad thing? No, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, because the wonderful things that women do and the wonderful ways that they bring children into the world is remarkable, and women are remarkable. So I'm looking at number 1, and she says address inflammation. And usually you'll know your inflammation because you're gonna feel it in the gut wall. And the access to hormones and all the parietal cells that hold the hormones, guess where they are? They're in that big, long, squished up 40 feet bowel. And then the next thing that's in that system that can be filled with inflammation because of your insulin resistance is your second brain. All the receptors for your serotonin, your norepinephrine, your dopamine, every chemical that makes you feel good, receptors match in the gut. So if you've got this inflammation going on in the gut, you're going to have this elevator that's going to go up. It's going to initiate depression. It's going to initiate sadness, going to initiate irritability. It's going to initiate anxiety. And then you become stressed up here because the way you feel it. And then this elevator goes down. And that's why people get a lot of sore stomachs when they're upset. It's because of the receptor sites down there match up here. So that's another big system. And then the third system that's very important to us is the immune system. And that is huge. It's got 5 systems, and they all do different things. IgG, IgA, IgM, IgD. And of course, if that needs to be addressed, then we address it. But there'd be certain symptoms that you'd have to be worrying about or doing that we would do those levels. So it just depends on your presentation. It just depends where you actually are at in the pathophysiology challenges that you have. So inflammation is huge. And if we don't get that gut inflammation under control, we are not going to do very well in the regular ovulation or the regular cycles. So that is an area that so needs to be looked at in this getting right or getting things correct. The next thing is treat the insulin resistance. And you've heard this word over and over again. She dedicates a whole chapter to it. She addresses the insulin resistance. And it's a bit of what I told you and how it works. And then here comes the cortisol people, the adrenals. And they say they're so important, but they can't work on their own. They can only work what the brain does, what you feed yourself, kind of rest you have, everything. They are so dependent on the rest of your body. And so when your one hormones are off, then it's so affected the adrenals. And so that's very important that we look at that and we fix it and we know how to help you. The next thing is excess androgen. Your body kind of works. What must go up? Another thing goes down. What goes down, the next thing goes up. And that's just the way you're made. That's just your body trying to balance yourself. But you don't balance yourself because you're a human and you come imperfect. And so what happens is when your sex hormone binding globulin is this little, and I've seen it 8, 9, 10, that means something else has to go up. And what goes up is your androgen hormones. So you got this teeny tiny sex hormone binding globulin that's driving this high androgen output. So that's 2 things, testosterone and DHEA. Now you have a really strong, powerful body. You do have that. And then, the hair starts showing up, and then you have this, you lose your waist. In the olden days, when they used to pull in those corsets, they did it because it was a sign of fertility. And it really is a sign of fertility because just like she shows you here, you get your waist back, that means your fertility's back. So it's crucial. Really, really crucial. Next thing is, of course, getting the hormones balanced, because you need that symphony where they're in tune with each other, where they're going to make a beautiful concert. It's going to affect one part of your thyroid that is rarely looked at. And there's recent studies that show women do so much better with the T3. The hormone functional med docs have this down pat. And it is a lot to do with the fertility. And so I often see thyroid resistance. And so what you're going to see is the stimulating hormone's going to go up, because remember, you've got your drone, you've got your outlook post, you've got your pituitary up in here that's saying, uh-oh, the T3 is down. That's her energy, that's her metabolism. We've got to tell her that I need more T3. So when I look at thyroid, I look at 5 views of it. And if you're on thyroid, I'd look at 6 views of it. Does that mean I'm an endocrinologist? No, I am not. Does that mean I won't send you to an endocrinologist? No, of course I'll send you to an endocrinologist, especially if it's even more complicated than that. And so when you get the thyroid resistance, we have to get that stimulating hormone down. We have to get the T3 up, and we do it all through blood. There's a little controversy out there as well on saliva and doing it that route. I prefer blood. I prefer the blood measurement. That's how we get nourished. We are people that everything can be told through the blood. So the next thing that I'm going to be talking about is going to be this woman. And there's 3 that I like. Her name is Hayley Pomeroy. And boy, does she have it right. And then there's another guy that I like. You can find him on the internet, and he does this food pyramid. And it is an excellent food pyramid. And they both focus on anti-inflammatory foods, because our insulin resistance, our PCOS women make inflammation faster than they blink. And so they point you and teach you in the direction of anti-inflammatory foods. And I hate the word diet. I hate it. So I like to call it a food plan that is going to help them with energy, balancing hormones, and fertility. And these doctors of nutrition are fantastic. So my next chat will be what Hayley Pomeroy has to offer, which is very, very varied and very important. I just wanted to end with a little Scottish song, going back to the beginning where I was given the Expect Miracles little necklace. And I thought about the era of the women who are in their 20s and their struggles with infertility, and how much they dearly want to get pregnant. And I had that same struggle, because when it came to America, the foods that I was now partaking in caused it. And when my middle child was 3, she went to Montessori school, and she had to sing different solos. Many of them did this. And I chose Ali Bali Bee, because her name is Ali. But it was so cute because it's a mommy singing to her daughter. So anyway, I want people to have joy, to sing whatever songs they want to their children, to help them grow and be strong, and to feel the love. And I hope you can feel some love through this podcast, because women care. I care. I think people in medicine care, and they show they care by listening and not diminishing them, and not say, oh, you just need an antidepressant, or you just need to diet, or whatever the little, dismissive little sentence may be. And we will chat again. Thank you. I'd love it when you listen to this, to do a like and to do a subscribe, because the more women who know how to help themselves, the healthier they'll be. Thank you.